to create the image of this future self. The future self was the amazing United States of America, that dream that we had in the 50s. That dream died decades ago.
Welcome to Dream Richer. Do you think the American dream is dead? One of America's founding myths is that of the self-made man. The idea that with enough work and dedication, anybody can climb the social ladder and become wealthy, or at least better off than his or her parents. Research centers from all political backgrounds have drawn the very same conclusion. The U.S. is by far the most unequal society in the developed world, and things are getting worse every year. Many Americans no longer seem to believe that they will ever be financially secure or stable. Now more than 3/4 of all Americans believe that downward mobility is more likely than upward mobility. Hence, according to research, the dream of owning a home, having stable employment, and retiring debt-free and financially secure is simply as the phrase suggests, a mere dream, nothing more. For example, since the Great Depression, the American dream has been linked to homeownership. Now, almost 10 years after the worst economic crisis, America is well on the road to becoming a renter nation. Today, the multi-millionaire investor Raoul Pal unravels the mystery of the American dream. Is it truly dead, or can it still be attained? If you find the video helpful, then don't forget to subscribe. Let's get right into it.
The American dream that came out in the 50s was about the wonder of economic growth, technology, peacetime, and abundance and opportunity for everybody. Everybody could be the president, everybody could be rich. That mentality is terrifying because it creates a misalignment of present self and future self. So everybody feels like they never got there. This was the whole book, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas by Hunter S. Thompson, was basically this, is that's what Vegas is about. We don't have gambling in the same way in Europe. You can go and gamble, it's just not a big deal. But in America it is, because it's about this future expectation of yourself, I think, driven by the American dream. And obviously a frontier style economy and how the US gave birth to itself. So the American dream was set up and a whole construct was set around it. And then two bad things happen. Bad thing number one is everybody goes, this is fucking amazing. I want to have kids. Is if two of us go for a job interview, we have a 50-50 chance. If 1,000 of you do, you have a 1 in 1,000 chance. So what happens is, if too many people come into the workforce at the same time, they compete with each other for wages. And if you look back and inflation adjust wages for the average median American, or the average American, particularly the median American, over the last 45 years, it's not gone up at all. So there's been no productivity growth. The miracle never happened. But in the meantime, the price of assets went up. Why? Because there's a whole bunch of people at the same age who all want to buy a house at the same time, all want to buy into the stock market at the same time to stay for their retirement. They pushed up prices. And then the government started doing the same. So it was all driven by the baby boomers, but the baby boomers had a second shock and a third shock. Second shock came in mid-80s, which was computers. Computers started competing for jobs with people.
In the words of Raoul Pal, one of the leading causes for the death of the American dream is none other than overpopulation. With the rise of baby boomers and ever-increasing millennial population, the whole workforce has been thrown into strong competition. As Mr. Raoul argues, if 20 people apply for the same job, your chance of getting the job is 1 out of 20. However, if 1,000 people apply for that same job, your likelihood of getting accepted takes a large downward hit and becomes 1 out of 1,000. A rapidly growing population increases the requirements of demographic investment, which at the same time reduces the capacity of the people to save. This creates a serious imbalance between investment requirements and the availability of investable funds. Therefore, the volume of such investment is determined by the rate of population growth in an economy.
So this whole thing was driven by demographics, and that came out of World War II. So it was World War II that drove all of the mess we're in now, and that's the same globally. Japan didn't have millennials either. So they're all older populations. The US had the millennial population. So the millennial population, it pops up into the workforce. The millennials about 4 years ago, started hitting 30 years old, that big thing. This is a big bunch of people. Problem is, they look into the world, their parents are still in the workforce, so they need to compete with jobs with their parents. There's a whole bunch of them competing with each other. They all try and go to university to see if they can get a better job, so they drive up the cost of university. They then come out of university, they try and buy a house. It's just a mess. When you have these bulges of population, you create all these distortions. So these millennial population are pretty screwed because their parents have driven up the price of assets so high, trying to save enough to retire, which has never really happened. That they come out and say, right, I'm earning money now. What do I buy? Oh, the equity market at all-time high valuations, the bond market at all-time low yields, property prices are too high to afford. Again, all of these are why I got to crypto. So if you've got something with restricted supply, so let's think of oil right now. Because of the Russian situation, there is not enough oil for the current demand out there. So the oil price keeps going up. You and I pay more to drive our cars or to heat or cool our houses. The only way of solving that one, because you can't get the Russian oil back into the market, is to make us use less oil. Price does that automatically because it gets more expensive we do it. But if you can also then just lower general demand for things, we'll drive our cars less, we'll catch less flights, all of that stuff, and that lowers demand and therefore prices. Because prices rising, inflation, is evil for our savings because the dollar in your bank account is worth less in a year's time. It's currently worth 8% less, which is quite a lot. And so it's this weird situation where we have to take the pain. We're told we can't buy as much and we're forced into it by rising our mortgage costs and our food costs and all of this stuff. And eventually things will slow down, people will be put out of jobs a bit, that kind of stuff. And then the overall demand in the economy comes down and prices come down.
It's clear from Raoul Pal's explanation that crypto is his chosen mode of still attaining the American dream, with an ever-increasing population and changing market sentiments. The American dream has never looked more impossible to achieve. However, as Mr. Raoul argues, learn to invest in assets that cannot be inflated by outside concerns. For example, if you understand Bitcoin and make a pledge to allocate to it in a meaningful way, you are taking a step into the direction of reviving the American dream. Pulling your faith from the United States dollar, which has served as the vehicle for infinite wealth depletion at a government level, is the start. It could be the start of a monetary revolution that sees the world turn to a hard money standard. One where a low time preference is rewarded, and one where the American dream returns to fact from fiction. To learn more about the latest crypto news, watch these videos here.